Okay, let's just put it on pause for a moment. The nonsense of the, yeah. So that's what the Baal Shem Tov says, that coming into the ark, Vayera Teva, is the salvation to save you from the awful Rabbi, the turbulent waters of thoughts and that drive you bonkers, and the challenges of trying to make a living and dealing with the world at large. Okay. So now, that is a good standalone voice. But you'll see it's even more interesting. Because the word teva, which means ark, also means word, tevot. It's a word, if you look up in Google, word, so it'll tell you. There'll be two. One is milah, that's another word, that's more modern Israeli word. The word teva means a word. No, that's spelt differently. Teva with a tet and a bet and an ayin is nature. Teva. Okay. Teva with a tof. Yud. Base. Hey. Teva. That means word. It also means word. Okay. So that's what the Baal Shem Tov says. It's hinting to the words of Torah. Okay, got it? Well, you know what? Let me get back to that. Can I do that in a minute? Let me just finish with what we're talking about here. Now, here's the thing here. A person can feel like this. It's all very nice. You know, a person, he should come into the words of Teva, the words of Torah and Tefillah, to escape the terrible, tough tribulations of the world. But, I'm just an ordinary, simple guy. I'm like a tzaddik, but they wrote so. Oh, that's what Torah says. Even if you're a tzaddik, like, no, if you think you're a nice guy, of course, in relation to the whole world, you're still a bit of a tzaddik. So don't think, but just because you think you're not such a great tzaddik. No, you could also come into the art. You should also come into the art. Don't think that you're not such a great guy. Oh, I'm not such a great guy. We say you should come into the ark anyway. Vayera Teva. And that's why I said it. On the other hand, you've got another guy, he has a different challenge. He thinks he's a really big tzaddik. I mean, a tzaddik doesn't mean you're humble to the point where you don't know your own greatness. I mean, Badger knows how great he is. Understand? Doesn't mean he's not humble. Exactly. Because it all comes from the Shemayim. So a person can think that he's so great, he doesn't need this Torah and Tefillah. Torah and Tefillah for the guys, the guys who are lower off. I am naturally a great person. And therefore a person might think just one second. A person might think that he doesn't need to come into the table. We say, no. Even if you're a big tzaddik, like even if you would have been in the time of Rome, even such guys also have to go into that. Don't, you know what I mean? Don't exempt yourself just because you think you're a big tzaddik. That is why it's in two ways. To give us both people need that lesson to boil a table, come to the table. And just before I answer it, do you have a question? What is a tzaddik? It's somebody who doesn't even think to do bad things. He doesn't think to say bad things. He doesn't think about doing. Yes. There's not a lot of them. There's not a whole lot of them. No, we're not talking about historically. We're talking about in society, in the present. We're talking about is the lesson for us. So whoever you are, whether you're a sort of simple, ordinary guy, in relation to the whole world, you're still a bit of a tzaddik. But don't talk yourself down. You also need to come into the table. And even if you're a guy who's really a really good guy, you don't think about doing bad things, you don't say bad things, you don't do bad things, you don't even think about these things. And you might think, well, I certainly don't need to come as a Vayera Teva. No, you also need it. You also need to improve and go up and up and up in the words of Torah. Now, as to Menachem's question about What about coming out of the table? It's a very good point. The Rabbi has a beautiful sikh about it. But he says sometimes people can be so immersed in their own spiritual input and absorption that they don't want to go out to the world and elevate the world. They're not interested in being involved in the world. You ever remember the Meraglim, the spies? What did the spies want to do? They had a great time in the desert, weren't they? They were just having a great time being very holy and spiritual. So Hashem said, no, you've got to come to Eretz Yisrael. That's the mission, is to bring heaven down to earth. You guys, you come out of the ark. You've got to go out of the ark now. You've got to bring... The ark was a great spiritual experience. You know, it says that none of the animals harmed each other. It was like Mashiach. It was pure peace on earth, literally. It was peace on earth. Pure purity, like a mikveh, massive mikveh, as we've discussed before. 40 days, 40 nights, 40 sa'ah, yeah? And in the ark itself was purely peaceful. So that spirit, Hashem said, right, okay, you've gone into the ark. You've spent a whole year. They were a year in the ark, right? You did a lot of time for thinking, a lot of time for meditation, for mulling over, for becoming more spiritual. Now it's time to leave the ark. They didn't necessarily want to leave. It's such an amazing experience. They were so, all right? We can't even understand that. Why would the Meraglim want to stay in the desert, for crying out loud? Because the desert is like, they had no worries. All the food's taken care of, the drink's taken care of, the clothes are taken care of. I'll just sit and learn all day, sit and daven all day, sit and meditate all day. Well, great, that's wonderful. But what are you achieving? How are you helping the world? That's not your mission. Your mission is to start off that way, yeah? We start off in the morning, we daven, we learn, then we go out to the world. Yeshiva Bochrim, they learn, then they got to go out and they make a living. Exactly, you start that way. And then you go out, okay? You what? Well, what do you mean again? Some people say that was the wonderful thing about COVID. It got people to... Yeah, you like that? No, some people, the big people... Yeah. No, okay, we're not saying this for everybody, but there were people who felt, and a lot of people who changed their whole lives, and they were just like, for them, it was wonderful. A lot of people drove them bonkers. But it's not an objective reality, because to some people it's this, to some people it's that. So some people it's heaven, some people it's hell, you know? Okay, listen, we accept that, but it's not. But here we're not talking about from a disease. Okay, we're talking about, you know, the fact is they had no choice. There was no choice. So of course it was miserable in the sense you think about the world. In a way that was a bit like COVID, because, you know, from the world's point of view, it was a lot worse than COVID. It was the ultimate COVID pandemic where the entire world was wiped out. And here they were, nice, safe and sound inside. But of course they couldn't go to Tesco, they couldn't go out to the films, they couldn't go out to the pub. There was nowhere to go. So he's bad anyway. Mm-hmm. Upstairs, they were on the penthouse. They had the penthouse. Yeah, you know, double glazed. I don't think after the double Wi-Fi. They have their Wi-Fi. They had floodlights. Floodlights. After the ark, what? Yes. Nonsense. Yeah. Of course. Yeah, but that's when Avram came, which we're not going to talk about now in Parsha's left. Avram came along. That was the whole Hashem saved. You're right. It's interesting. There's always this sort of plan A, plan B. It's like with the Mauritian, you know, mistake, and then you get to start again, right? Destruction of first temple. Oh, start again, second temple, right? Hashem is constantly. He wants us to do it ourselves. And we keep making mistakes. So we have tshuva. Baruch Hashem, we have tshuva. We don't have tshuva. We couldn't change. We try and actually work it out for ourselves instead of just being, you know what I'm saying? You can just feed us. What's the achievement? You have to fall sometimes and fail. Fall and fail. It's interesting, very close words. You have to fall and fail in order to be able to know how to get up and succeed. The man who never failed never made anything, right? At the end of the day, success is based on failure. So, so let's get on to Avram, as we say in Parshas Lech Lecha. So Lech Lecha, of course, talks at the end the whole idea about the milah. It represents the new bris between him and Hashem. So now we'll turn to the Pasuk. Let's look at the Pasuk here. And an unbelievable machlokas. You're not going to believe some of the words in this machlokas. This is unbelievable. The end of Parshas Lech Lecha. Right at the end, almost the last Pasuk. Last Pasuk. Be'etzem hayom hazeh. Chof Vov. Chof Vov. Gematria 26. That is not an accident. Be'etzem hayom hazeh, on the essence of this day, Oz Nimel Avram. Avram was circumcised. Okay. Now, Rashi tells us a Pasha thing, Be'etzem hayom hazeh. Oh, that's funny. What is it? Oh, he says it elsewhere. Oh, I see. It says twice. Yes, twice. If you look at verse 23, it also says Be'etzem hayom hazeh. Interesting. You notice that. So Be'etzem hayom hazeh is right in the middle of the day. Because Rashi explains it because people were. It's like, by the way, it says when Moshe went up the mountain to die. Be'etzem hayom hazeh. So it was the same thing with Noach. Also in Noach, Be'etzem hayom hazeh. It's 3 times. It says Etzem hayom hazeh because people were threatening. We said, we ain't going to let this Avram do this bris business and make a special connection with Shem. Oh, no. If we see him do that, we're going to stop him. We won't let him do that. Right? This was the plan. Okay. But I want to share with you an amazing disagreement between 2 great sages. One was Rabbi Levi, and one was Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana. And this is in the Medrash. And I'll tell you what the problem is. We've already said that he already circumcised himself. Look in verse 24. Well, actually, verse 23, Vayomer B'Saraza, he circumcised himself. And then in verse 24, he was 90 years old when he circumcised himself. Right? And Yishmael was 30. Okay, great. Then he says, in case we forgot, guess what? We know that he. So these 2 rabbis argue about this thing. What do you mean? Nimol Avraham. What are you telling me? What are you telling me new? We know Avram was just circumcised. So here Rabbi Levi says like this. Rabbi Levi says the word nimol, which is a bit funny, it's a bit out of place here. It's extra nifal. Well, it's not just nifal, it's totally not needed. It's not needed, and it's nifal. An interesting point, you're right. And it's nifal. You know what nifal means? Yes, it's almost sort of like reflexive, that's it. Yeah. So Rabbi Levi says like this. Nimol, it's telling us that, you know what? The whole thing happened in a totally and utterly miraculous way. Oz Nimol Avram. He looked and he was circumcised. Just happened like that. Just like that. Ah, good point. From that, we see that he wouldn't have felt it. If he just suddenly saw, and he may have said, oh, look at that. That's fitting. That's interesting. Right there, just there. That is what Rabbi Levi says. Nimel, he looked, he saw, and boom, just like that, automatic, chick-chuck. Was it chick-chuck? Okay. And therefore, as you absolutely he probably didn't feel any ache. Okay. All right. That's a good point. This is, by the way, Rashi doesn't bring this. This is not according to Rashi. This is according to the Midrash. Yeah, this is according to the Midrash. Rashi does not bring this Midrash. I'm just showing with this Midrash because I found it amazing. Because the Rabbi and Rabbi Avivaka, not that I know about them too much, although I've got a new book, fantastic new book I've just been looking at. It's called Introduction to the Talmud from ArtScroll, which gives a biography of all the rabbis of the Mishnah and the Gemara. So I'm going to have a little bit look later. Look at that; it's fantastic. No, it's not. Well, I got the travel edition, but it's full of lots of chunky stuff. Now listen to what he says. Okay, Hannah says he calls him shakrona, kazvana. He says, "You liar! You're yeah." Kazvana is like another word for lie. It's like you're a liar, right? No way! How dare you say that, right? What does he say? He says, "Here it is for his style." He said, on the contrary, he really felt it. That's Nimol Avram. He really felt it. Here it is. His style. Yes, exactly. Here it is his style. And it was not easy for him at all. It was the exact opposite. Yes, absolutely. Nimol. This repetition is telling you that he seriously did feel it. So it's a machlokes from one extreme to the other. Right, one say, "Oh, the word means he didn't feel it at all," and the other one says, "No way." He says he really felt it. Okay, it's not about that. Look, okay, but I'm not finished yet. I'm not just here just to tell you what the Midrash says. Okay, because we're now going to discuss a little bit why is there so? I mean, this is Rabbi Kahana. He's taking this very, very seriously. He seems to be of the opinion. I mean, that pain is a very important part of this whole thing. So much so that he goes ballistic. I don't think there's any other way of putting it. Because these words, they're usually the rabbis, if they would disagree with each other, they usually do it quite diplomatically, and you don't hear such language. When I saw this myself, it's like, whoa, shakrona, kazvana, you lying. You liar! You are. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So, as far as Abba Kahana is concerned, pain is a crucial part of Bris Milah, right? And so much so that he thinks he's crackers. This Reb Levi, that there's a dispute like there's no pain. Ridiculous. How can you imagine such a thing? So let's try and understand this a bit. Let's try and understand pain. Why pain? At the end of the day, what's going on here? Hashem is doing it's a beautiful mitzvah. Bris Milah. Oh, the greatest mitzvah. It's awesome. Why should there be pain associated with it? Why should there be pain associated? If you're doing Hashem's mitzvah, doing Hashem's will, should there be pain? So here we see the fact that it comes back a little bit to what we spoke about, Odom, that you see the body itself is the reason why the body feels pain, even though it's doing a mitzvah, is because it's very, very low. It's very low. Really, if the body was more elevated and refined, the body would sort of dance for joy. It's doing a mitzvah and Hashem, right? No. The body's very, very low, and therefore very, very reluctant, and experiences pain, even when it's doing a mitzvah. But that is what Hashem wanted, in a sense. He wanted to say, look, I am putting within you, I'm going to make a part of your whole existence, your physical body, that when you do a mitzvah, if you're doing a mitzvah and it's associated a bit with pain, as I say in Yiddish, don't worry about it. That's perfectly normal. It's perfectly natural. It's okay. It's okay. People sometimes think that the idea of pain, I can give anybody pain. You don't experience any pain. That's terrible, right? I mean, you're not allowed to slap a kid nowadays, right? You're not allowed that, right? The Talmud says, if you spare the rod, you hate your child, right? Now, obviously, nowadays people are very, what's the word? They're very sensitive. And people may not have the right mindset, say, when they're giving. That's the aspect, right? And therefore, people sometimes are not very good at disciplining nowadays, physically. So therefore, the whole thing is basically taboo and out the window, right? But the concept of pain being, something important. I mean, people do, let's say, sometimes there are consequences of certain life choices that we make. Oh, no, that's exactly what we're saying. That's exactly what we're saying. That pain can be positive. Sometimes pain can be simply a gratuitous result, where it's certainly unnecessary. People make certain life choices. Certain people, certain people do certain things. Let's say they get addicted to certain things, whatever it is, certain addictions, and that may cause consequences that cause them pain, right? Now that would be a good way of arousing a person to sort of realize that's not a good thing. However, that's a different point altogether. But here we're saying that even if you're doing Hashem's will, because you're doing Hashem's will, pain is sometimes, you shouldn't think that because it's uncomfortable and because it's a bit painful, therefore it's treif. No, on the contrary. On the contrary, the Bris Milah tells you that you can have a situation where you're having like the biggest mitzvah, which is Bris Milah. I mean, it is pretty big mitzvah, and yet there's pain associated with it. So chill. So that's what Hashem is saying, don't worry. Don't worry. Don't hold yourself back. If you're fulfilling the mission of Hashem, even if there's a bit of pain involved, don't hold yourself back. And then if you sort of throw yourself into it, eventually, you know what? You'll be okay. Hashem will give it to you in a way he'll take away a pain and it'll be all fine and hunky-dory anyway. That's if you have that right attitude. What do you say? Well, I didn't hear what you said. You just got a pained look on your face. I didn't hear what you said. Yeah, in other words, if you have the attitude that, got to do it, it's got to be done. Yeah, it's going to hurt a bit, might hurt a bit. Yeah, it's going to hurt a bit. And you have that attitude of just not worry about it and just do it, get up, okay? Get over it. Then Hashem will, he'll make things, he'll manufacture things in a way that he'll take away the pain as well. Do you understand? That is but sometimes, it's like. So would you have well, first of all, I used to have feelings without anesthetic all the time. Yeah. Let me give you an example, a good example. I think just occurred to me. There were three great guys in the Bible called, in the time of Daniel. They were living in Babylon, called Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. I think Azariah. Now these three, they were holy dudes, holy guys. And in the Chumash it says that the king of Babylon, whoever it was, whatever, wanted them to bow down to idols. They said, no, we're not interested. He said, well, if you don't bow down to idols, they're going to throw you in the furnace. So they said, all right, throw us into the furnace. That's what you want. So he said, well, this I guess he was a bit of a scholar, this king. He says, don't expect any miracles, not like your four great father, Avram. And they said, oh, no, we don't expect any miracles at all. Because who are we? We're not worthy. We're not worthy. If Hashem decides to take us away, that's his business. And what happened? Miracle happened. They were thrown in the furnace and they were saved. They were saved. And Rashi says over there, and he says in the Chumash, which Parsha it is. Do you remember which Parsha? He speaks about Kiddush Hashem. He says, when a person has to give up their life for Hashem, maybe, if and when a person needs to give up their life for Hashem, that it should happen, but if it happens, a person should always desire and aspire to give up their life for Hashem, not with the thought that there's going to be a miracle that happens. You just do it. Okay? And if Hashem does a miracle, he does a miracle. Now, that's not necessarily an easy thing to do, right? But, so that in a sense is what I'm saying is that sometimes people do things with regard to Yiddishkeit that they think are going to be very painful, and in the end, they do it, and it actually ends up not so bad after all.
Why not track with design?
Yes, exactly.
No, in the Bible situation, it would be no, because I trust the general thing.
Yes, but if he doesn't, it's a
that's contradicting.
No. But in other words, what they said was no, because that's, you see, that's the whole thing. You're not supposed to. This is an interesting point. You know, are you relying on the miracle? You don't rely on a miracle. Okay, but you see, they didn't want to make a Chilul Hashem. You know what I mean, a Chilul Hashem? Because if they're going to say, Hashem's going to save me, try to give it that good. Now, you maybe would have saved them anyway. But I think they were concerned that if they wouldn't have been saved, and they felt, because they knew who they were, they felt they were naturally, they did not deserve to be saved. Do you understand? Now, you could say, well, Takov is good means even if you think you don't deserve it. Well, you know, maybe they didn't yet learn that, because that was given over by the Tzemach Tzedek only about, 150, 200 years ago. Takov is good. Do you know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, Halavai. Good point. All right. Yeah, he was saying, I'm a chai. I'd like this is what I've been waiting for all my life. Yeah. Kiddush Hashem. It's a good point. Very good point. Yeah, he didn't want to be saved. He wasn't even looking to be saved. The mitzvah. Because if he's saved, then like L'chayra, he hasn't actually died. Wait, well, not L'chayra. He hasn't died. Al Kiddush Hashem. What? Oh, hefsek. Hefsek. Yeah. Not now. Not now. I don't think now's the. That's not quite the right time. Yeah. Number 34. You know that one. He knows the joke numbers. He can't remember. You know that one? I didn't say I was going to tell this. So it wasn't the first one that was halfway through. That's right. Very good. Okay, so he knows the word joke as well. Okay, let's move on to the last. I think we're going to move into the last bit now. In our Parsha now, we're coming now to Vayera. First thing that occurs to us. Do you want to send round a thing saying we just need one more for Myrav? Do we have 6 people, by the way, who didn't have Myrav? Got me, yeah. Me, you didn't. Can we just, one more for Myrav? No, we need the pronouns too.
There won't be anyone without the group. How would they have got on there?
Okay. So what's the first thing that we read about in the Parsha? We read about the Avram recovering and the visit from the 3 angels, right? The 3 angels. Yeah. Now, let's just have a look here. Here we go. Wait a minute. No, sorry, wrong page. Here we are. Page Kuftes, chapter 18, Chai, verse base. So Avram lifts up his eyes. He's sitting there. It's very hot day, and he's chatting with Hashem. Hashem came to visit him, and they're chatting. Whatever. Hashem's asking how he's doing. Suddenly sees 3 people. Rambam says, now let's just Let me just let's do this pasuk. There are three people standing by him. Vayar, Olav means in front of him, like further away from him. Vayar, and he saw it. He rushed off to meet them. Vayera, and he's saying as he's before he kind of ran off to meet them, which according to one shot in Rashi is referring to Hashem. Basically, Hashem is saying, Avram is saying, oh, very good. Somebody's saying, might be Josh. Avram is saying, like Hashem, please excuse me while I go and take care of these guests. Yeah? Oh, happy. אתה בעדו את השכינה. באמת? אז יהיה קודש. Right, this is what the first chat Rashi is. That he says to Hashem, please hold on while I go and take care of these guests. And from here we learn that what? Greater is hospitality than even greeting the face of the Shekhinah, because Avram was chatting to Hashem, and he told Hashem, please could you hang on a minute. Right? Now the interesting thing is Rambam writes the same halacha, but using the first part of the verse, not the second, not the next verse. What does he use? He uses a proof text. Vayar, three men were there, and he saw them. That's what Rambam writes. Now, how do you learn by that? There were three guys in front of him, and he saw them. I mean, you understand according to the next one, which is really what Gemara said. That what? That Hashem said, that Avram says to Hashem, excuse me. Please excuse me. But how does why doesn't Rambam use that second verse? Why does he use it? And what's the whole point of this first verse?
What's the first?
No, the verse before. He saw Rambam says from that. He saw three guys. Okay, you saw three guys. What's that got to do with greater is hospitality than greeting Hashem? What has that got to do with being greater? Just to see three guys standing around. What's his name? Chaim. Parsha base. The normal story, he just quoted it. Vayera Hashem, right? Says, right? No, Dobracher, Kodesh, you're Omer HaKodesh Baruch Hu. Look at the next Dobracher. So you're Omer HaKodesh Baruch Hu, Lamtin. He said, wait, Al Shiur, V'yachnis es Orchim. Do you understand? You got that? It's the second shot of Rashi. Okay. Right. So do you understand the question now? Yes. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Menachem's basically got the answer. You see, no, it's fantastic. This is what the Rebbe says. The Rebbe says the truth is that the Pasuk tells us something quite amazing, that Avram was actually involved in chatting with Hashem. He was meditating, talking, whatever prophets do, right? And yet the fact that he saw them, right, meant that he was aware of their presence, even though he was talking to Hashem. I know, but you could, sometimes when so if you talk to God, you ever heard, now some of us, some of us, if the phone rings, now a lot of us will pick up the phone. Phone's ringing, I have to pick up the phone. But sometimes, if you're chatting with somebody, or you're sitting at home with your wife, yes, you may be sitting at home, the phone rings, you're having dinner with your wife, yes, you won't answer the phone. I mean, I think that would be a pretty good idea. The phones, we're not answering the phone, it's dinner time. Why? Because we're now private time, right? Whatever it is, right? Or maybe you're studying, you're studying. So sometimes we're involved in something wholly special. So Avram, he's talking to Kodesh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam, he's talking to the creator of heaven and earth. And here what? The fact that he's sort of open to guests. And he sees them. The Torah tells us he sees them. Means that is actually, it shows us that he's aware to the whole thing. And even more so, the fact is, why actually doesn't he use this next verse at the Rambam? Because actually, he's kind of teaches us something very important about Hachnas HaZorach. Hachnas HaZorach is not so much it's not always about what you do, but it's about how much you show you care about the other person. A person sometimes doesn't like to, impose. Sometimes you have to, I remember years and years ago, we got stuck in St. Louis, Missouri, Erev Shabbos, an hour and a half before Shabbos. Our plane was stuck in fog for hours the night before. We were supposed to end up in New York, stay in New York, come back to England. There was so much fog that our plane was delayed about 7 hours, whatever, and they could only land at St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you. And all our luggage was on the plane. And it went on. It went on. And it was Shabbos. We had nothing. Literally nothing. Except, credit cards, whatever we had. So we got off the plane. Oh gosh, an hour and a half before Shabbos, literally. So I called up the local Chabad shliach, as you do, as one does. I'm talking a long time. I'm talking about 25 years ago. Very long time ago. But we still, at the time, we had about maybe 5 kids, I don't know. We still had it was still a group. Yeah, it was a kut, exactly. We had about 5. So I called him, I said, is there anywhere, place, could you tell us where there's a hotel here and we could sort of just buy some kosher food? Sorry to disturb. And so I explained to him what happened. He says, hold on, let me ask. So he got to the phone. A couple of minutes later, he says, why don't you come up to us and stay with us for Shabbos? Just like that. I was very, very pressed now. We didn't really want to impose, because it's not just a couple of us. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even have pajamas for crying out loud. I had nothing. Didn't have a capote. I didn't even have my long capote. It was first time ever. The one and only time I didn't wear a capote on Shabbos. Pretty funny. It was a bit weird when you're used to wearing one every week. I'm saying. Anyway, but you see, if you do Hachnas HaZorach, you care about the person and you show the person you care about them. You are so interested in that. Gives a really good feeling to a guest. Because you don't feel like you're imposing. But when somebody cares about you so much, looks out for you so much, and here's Avram Avinu, he was, his whole mind was on them. What can I do for you? How can I help you? It's like amazing, this the whole question about meat and milk, how it was serving meat and milk. Yeah, that whole thing, because it looks like he's serving meat and milk, right? And the Rebbe says, no, he wasn't serving meat and milk. He gave him a choice. Would you like milk, eggs, or flesh? Would you like pizza or steak? Yeah, give him a whole menu, but a double menu of it. And normally I have a milk egg restaurant or a flesh restaurant. You don't have both. You know what I'm saying? So this is the reason why the Rambam uses that verse, because the Rambam's telling us that it's about the prime important principle of Hachnas HaZorach is the way you show whoever you are, your guest is, how much you care, how much you're paying attention to their needs. It's not always about just what you do for them. They tell a story in the Gemara about a father and a son. the son, the father was an old man. He was an old man, and the son was very, whatever. So he made a whole suda for his father. Fantastic, amazing suda, even better than the Kiddush. And he's told his father, okay. So his father sat down eating. He says, "Oh wow, you must have spent so much money on this." So the son, what the son said? "Dad, do me a favor, shut up and eat." What do you think that communicated? That he was very happy to have spent all that money? Right? Just shut up and eat. That's what this is going to tell the story. Okay, he's doing kibbutz avim, but he's destroying the kibbutz avim with one word. Oh, you say that? You could say that nicely. Shut up and eat. Not shut up and eat. Don't shut up and eat. Don't worry, Dad. It's a pleasure. Please eat. It's my pleasure. Oh well, look. If you don't understand the difference in Hafnas and Zorkin, come on, Spencer. Well, if you tell a guest and a guest walks up to you in your house and you give him an amazing meal, okay, and you did spend a lot of money, okay, and they would say, "Wow, Spencer, look, it's a steak. Woohoo! Where'd you get the steak from?" You say, "Just, Uncle, just be quiet. Just be quiet and eat. Enjoy it. Enjoy." Oh, come on. Well, I don't know. Do people agree with Spencer? What do you think? I don't know. I think you're out. I think you're a bit outvoted over here. Exactly. Yeah, I don't think they were reporting him in a good light. I think he lost the entire star of that. Keep it up at 8.
Rabbi.
Oh, he felt it.
By Rabbi Kiva. He told the angels. He just mentioned Rabbi Kiva. They said, "Zur Torah zu schara." So Hashem told the angels, "Oh, please shut up. You don't shut up." Okay. He said, "Don't shut up." Yeah, he says, "Stop." On epoch olam letohu v'bohu. Epoch olam letohu v'bohu. That's what he told the angels. Die still. Die still. Okay, everybody. Thanks very much for listening. All the best. I'm ending. Well, actually, how do we stop that? Okay, we'll just stop for now. Is there any other? Is there?